Climbing Championships from Jefferson, Pennsylvania, where today 35 riders riding 500cc and 750cc motorcycles will attempt to challenge the hill. The hill is behind me, a 75-degree incline, 300 feet straight up, and the motorcycles and the riders will challenge that course. Join us here as we catch every minute of the exciting action. Welcome back to Jefferson, Pennsylvania. I'm Craig Smith along with Bill Eiler. We are here on a Sunday afternoon. It is beautiful. The humidity is down for this time of the year. And you're watching the 1985 Hill Climbing National Motorcycle Hill Climbing Championships from Jefferson, Pennsylvania. We have two classes. Here we have the first rider in the 500cc class, Greg Williams from Markham, Ontario. These riders are going up 300 feet up a hill, what's about at a 75% or 75-degree incline, Bill, and that was a tough ride for Greg.
Yeah, he had a good ride going until he got that second breaker. He got a little sideways. It threw him across there at an angle, and he came out of the seat.
As we progress through the afternoon, we're going to explain a lot about the sport of motorcycle hill climbing, and we'll be talking to many of the riders and getting their reactions to attacking a hill like this. But right now, let's bounce to the top 10 standings and take a look at those. Bill?
All right, in first place after one ride is Jim Clark at 676. In second place is David Newsom at 707. Third place belongs to Robert Crowder at 786. Fourth place is held by Timothy Fraser at 789. Fifth place is held by Greg Williams, the rider you just seen, at 792. Sixth place is held by Bruce Swigert of Ephrata at 824. And seventh place is Ray Stearns. Eighth place belongs to Rodney Riddle, the rider coming into the pits. Ninth place belongs to Larry Litt. And 10th place is Ralph Krieger.
Okay, Bill, in the top 10 there, the number one rider, Jim Clark of Laurelville, Ohio, has came in at 6.76 seconds. If you want to put that into some kind of perspective, we're looking up, as I said, a 75-degree incline up this hill at Jefferson, and it is about the distance of a football field. So if you can equate that, you can see what they have to attack. And to do that in 6.76 seconds with the smaller bike is quite an incredible feat. 35 riders, Bill, have shown up for today's competition. Many of them the tops in the country, some of them the tops in the world.
These riders come from all over the country, and this is a national hill climb, and only the top riders in each class are allowed to participate in it.
Okay, and while we talk about class, we're in just the beginning or the start of the B class, which is the smaller 500cc motorcycles. Is that correct?
Right, these are 500cc. They're nitro-burning motorcycles, and they do not put out quite as much horsepower as, of course, the larger class 750s. The 750s are a little bit faster.
And Rodney Riddle of Laurelville, Ohio, about ready to take off and attack the 300-foot hill here in Jefferson. Okay, technically, what happened in that ride there, Bill?
Well, Rod come out of the pit real fast. He got the first breaker in a real good time, but when he left off and come back on to get through that breaker, the engine didn't come back on, so he just ran out of power.
Okay, are the riders in this B class the less experienced riders?
No, not necessarily. There's some riders riding B class that's been riding for 20 years. It's, you know, like some of them say, it's as fast as they want to go.
Is that what makes the difference between the two classes? Their desire to ride a bigger piece of machinery?
Well, I think, yeah, the big choice is how fast you want to go and what you feel you can control.
Okay, let's take a look here at what happens. The hill goes up for about 60 feet, and then it levels off just slightly for part of the incline. Then it's got a steep incline. So let's take a look at where he loses it here. Bill, go ahead.
Okay, see, as you can see, when he hit that breaker there, he got a little sideways. The tower went off, and he's off the hill. He's off the course. There's no chance of recouping it once you're that far going. So, you know, he just shut it the rest of the way off, and rather than bust his equipment up doing nothing.
David Newsom is pulled out because of some mechanical problems. So now we're taking a look at David R. Hale of Charlotte, Missouri.
Yeah, they call this guy Zip, and he's so light and thin, and he really goes. He's only been out here for about 2 years, too. He's one of the upcoming young stars. There's a lot of them out here, and they have very fast machines.
What's he riding?
He's riding a 500cc Triumph. It's a very popular machine in the 500 class because it's light, and there's a lot of parts available for it. Dave got out of the pit real good. He's going pretty straight up through the middle. Ain't a little problem with the jump, but he made it through the lights. Real good ride for Dave.
Well, the tough part is that finish, too, isn't it, Bill? Because they get up there at the top, and it looked like David Hale had a good finish, but almost slipped off the side.
Right. The big thing here is if you're going fast through the middle, that second breaker is no problem. If you're not going fast, that second breaker is just going to throw you into all kind of trouble.
Okay, David Hale in a time of 7.71 seconds.
91:38. We got some money passes.
Okay, here comes David Hale right up over into the first flat. Continuing to gain speed, and there you see he gets that checker flag.
David Hale, 7.71.
Okay, now a chance to watch Bruce Swigert of Ephrata, Pennsylvania. He also riding the very popular Triumph.
Right, Bruce is one of the local stars. He just came up from the amateur ranks last year, and he's out here, and he's going fast. He's currently in 6th place, and he's going to be determined to run that position. Come out very straight. He's going through the middle very straight. He has a very good ride going. Should be a big improvement over the first one.
Nice ride by Bruce Swigert of Ephrata, Pennsylvania. 7.18 for Bruce Swigert. We had a chance earlier to take a look at how these bikes are constructed and talk with a local standout, Bees Went, about that. Let's go to that interview now. With Bees Wentz, 27 years a rider here and riding the circuit, been a national champion. Bees, let's talk a little bit about what the riders must wear or what you feel you are wearing for protective gear. Let's talk about what you have on here.
Well, there's certain protective gear which we're required to wear, which is a helmet, and we're required to wear leather pants or motocross pants. Some of the other stuff which I'm wearing, some padding here made locally for extra added protection, and you need all the help you can get, and if you fall off you want a law on, but on a hot day like today it's going to really get hot.
Yeah, it looks like a piece of gear that was invented really for football and other contact sports, but seems very applicable to hill climbing.
Yes, it was. This here was invented here in New York. As you can see, the padding's on the side and up the back. It has a padding in the back, and we have hip padding in here. And it works out just about the same almost as like a football player. You know, if you fall, you're going to fall hard. And just like football, if you get hit, you're going to get hit hard. So you need some protection so that you can hang in there and keep going.
Okay, there are two classes here at the Hill Climbs, the A and B class, the A being the 750 cc's, the B the 500 cc's. Let's talk about your bike, and let's move right up to the front of it where we can describe the makeup, because obviously to people who are seeing hill climbing for the first time, this is a new look. It's not looking like a street bike for them.
Yeah, here you can see on the front wheel we're running a real knobby tire, which you wouldn't see out in the road on the street. And I'm running a fork brace to keep the front end from twisting. I'm also running a real long travel front end, so it goes over the jumps and also the big bumps.
Okay, what about the tire? Is that for extra traction and also the big shocks for the absorption of the bumps?
Gives you a lot of travel, and so the tire don't skid out from under you is the idea of the knobby tire on the front.
Okay, let's move to the handlebar structure, because the handlebars are obviously more straight out.
What they call motocross bars, which is for going over jumps, and so you can hang on better. Here we have a cutout strap that goes into the bike, and I'd wear it around my wrist. And if I fall off at anywhere in the hill, it pulls off the bike and shuts the motor off. That's to keep the motor from going wild and run down over the hill without a rider on it or so forth.
Okay, obviously a very important safety feature.
Very important safety feature.
Okay, the engine itself built underneath here.
This is a regular racing XR 750 Harley Davidson. It's fuel injected, and we have just everything we can possibly do with it to get out as much horsepower. And I'd say this bike's putting out way over 150 horsepower.
Okay, so what are you talking about in terms of speed in a particular hill climb? This hill is at about a 70, 75 degree angle. What kind of speeds could you utilize
I'd
here?
say here we might reach 60, 70 mile an hour. It's possible to get up that high on a hill like this. It's on ground. We're running a tire chain. The hill is not extra long. It's just a good hill. It's tricky to ride, and most of the riders like it. It's tough.
Okay, you referred to the chain in the back. There's two chains really in this bike that I think our viewers would find interesting. One is the main drive chain, and the other is the chain on the tire. Talk about both of those.
The back end of this bike is extended about 18 inches over a stock motorcycle. That's to keep the front end from rearing up. And we're running a lot of chain on the back to get a lot of traction. And as you can see here, it takes like 9 foot of drive chain because of the extended rear end. And I'm running chain tensioners on there to keep it on the sprocket.
Okay, how about the chain on the back tire?
On the back tire, this is a commercial chain which is used on heavy conveyors, and we use it across the tire. There's 18 of them on there to get as much traction as I can get.
Okay, do you ever change the size of the chain depending on the makeup of the hill?
Yeah, if you look around, my buddy has a bike just like this. He's a little heavier than I am today. He's gearing a little higher than I am and going to run a lighter chain. So there's different combinations you can go to.
Well, even the youngest set are here to enjoy the 1985 National Motorcycle Hill Climb from Jefferson, Pennsylvania. He got his binoculars ready, and if we know what he's focusing in on, it's probably Steven Crowder of Milford, Michigan.
Right, Steve's in here. Steve was the winner of our June hill climb. He's becoming an uprising young star. He's also assisted by his father, Robert Crowder, who rides in the S50 class with him. Steve comes out very fast, you see. He gets over on the right side of the hill, bounces a little, but he still moves up through there. Steve got off the first ride, but he improved at that time.
I'll tell you, when I walked in here today, I was looking off to the right. It's the first time I've been on this site. And I was thinking, the hill, where is the hill? And I looked off to my left, and I felt numb. I felt goosebumps just looking up that thing. I'm not even sure our cameras can do justice to the steepness of that particular hill. And the thing that's really awesome to me is to know that those guys are going up there in 6 to 7 seconds. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really, you have to be here to really appreciate it. It's as the camera can't do the hill justice. It's a very steep, very fast hill. It's very difficult. You can't just walk up and down it. It's just about impossible just to walk up.
And as Steve Crowder finishes his, I asked many of the riders how they felt when they didn't beat the hill, but the hill beat them.
You look all week, and you're only looking at 6 seconds going up this hill, and you're driving some people 600 to 800 miles to compete in this. It's a long time to get here and a very short time to appreciate it. So if you do bad, you got a long time to remember it.
That hurts. Hurts two ways. For one thing, well, I'm allergic to pain. The next thing is, well, if you crash, you don't get anything. So if you don't place, you're not doing any good.
It's a feeling that the hills has beat you, and it's also knowing that you've only got one more ride to put it through. Right now I'm tied for first place for the World Championship, and I'm just trying to hang on to that points lead right now.
Well, the feelings I've got when I don't complete the run is just try to do better the next time, because you can't win anything unless you get to the top of the hill.
Now we're taking a look at Timothy Fraser from Lancaster, Ohio, firing up his BSA.
Very good ride there. He rides out of Earl Bowlby's shop out of Logan, Ohio.
7.12.
What makes a good ride? What are you looking for to analyze? And I think we'll probably have a chance to take a look at Timothy's ride in slow motion in just a few minutes. But what are you looking for a rider? Let's take a look at it here on the screen. You said he had a good ride.
Right. If you watch, he comes out of the pit very fast, very straight. his rear wheel's staying on the ground. He's smooth. He's not wasting a lot of horsepower. The front wheel's just lightly on the ground. He still has control of the bike, and the engine's revving full, and that's what makes a good ride. You're getting the maximum horse out of it, and you're delivering it to the ground, and that's where you pick up your time.
Okay, now you described the breakers earlier, those small flat areas in between the inclines. What effect do they have on the ride?
Well, the big thing is it makes them so tricky is that when you get to that point, you've got to hit that breaker. You've got to get that back wheel back on the ground. You can't hit it too fast or you'll fly partway over it. You'll lose a lot of time in the air. If you hit it too slow, you're going to be coming back on and you're not going to be completely into the breaker. So the fast way, you got to just try to get that wheel to shut down and come back on right at the very top of the breaker. And then, of course, the second breaker, if you're going fast, you can jump right over it. It doesn't even come into play. If you're not going fast, it's going to throw you all over the place.
Well, that'll bring to the pit number 30, John Warbaugh from Glen Rock, nearby Glen Rock. And I had a chance to talk to John before the race, and he gave me a very interesting insight as to why he went into motorcycle hill climbing.
You know, I was here when I was 5 years old, and just watching the hill climb, and my sister used to tell me that there was a pond up there on top of the hill. And they said, and I asked her, then I said, well, what happens to them? And they said that they just fly in the water when they go out over the top. So I've been trying to get up there fast enough, but I have yet to see the pond yet.
Well, as you heard John Warbaugh say, he came here and he started riding because his sister told him there was a pond on the other side of this hill. But as you can see, there is no pond, just the beauty of the hills surrounding Jefferson here in central Pennsylvania. And so number 30, John Warbaugh from Glen Rock, Pennsylvania, now has his bike fired up and ready to go.
John's a fairly new rider out here, Craig, and this is his first year. He's not doing bad. He's not doing great either, but he has nowhere to go but to improve. He's getting better every time he gets a little more experience under his belt. And that's the premier thing in this sport, experience. You see the Grand National Champion is, 53 years old. That's quite amazing. And then out here, 17-year-old, younger adults competing against him, and he's still able to beat him.
That's one of the things I found so fascinating in the interviews. I interviewed such a wide range of riders in age.
Right, like I said, there's young people, there's middle-aged, and there's what we consider older people to be in a fast sport like this.
Well, somebody told me last year there was a 66-year-old rider that wrapped up his career.
Right, Gerald Francis, his son, who rides in the 500 class, and his father was 66 last year, and that was his last year of riding. He rode actively up until then.
He rode longer than he worked.
Right, he was quite some gentleman, and of course, Larry Francis here with us today.
John Warbaugh is off attacking the hill from Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. Seems a little hesitant, doesn't he, Bill? A little tentative about the hill there.
Yeah, and he had the engine troubles the first time, and I don't think he was sure it was going to come back on, but it came back on for him, so he still made it to the top.
And that's what it's all about. All right, let's take a look at John Warbaugh in slow motion as he attacks the hill. As we said, he looked a little tentative at spots and just wasn't quite sure, Bill.
Right, you see, he come out of the pits fairly fast and fairly straight, but it was spinning a lot. He wasn't getting as much traction as the others were, but he used a bigger chain or a looser chain. But he also got the thing going, and the first time around, like I said, his engine shut off when he went across the breaker, and I think he hesitated a little before he continued on.
Okay, and so the experience factor, 5 years from now, we will not see John Warbaugh in that kind of situation.
No, I don't think in 5 years from now you'll see John Warbaugh let off of it, period.
Boy, there's the frustrating part, trying to pull that machine up over the crest of the hill when it finally, when you finally make that spill just before getting over the top.
Yeah, I don't envy those guys on top of the hill one bit. That's a long, hard, sweaty job up there. Those bikes are really heavy when you have to pull dead weight.
I don't think we can get you up.
Okay, Gerald France in the pit from Parma, Ohio, riding a Harley Davidson.
Somebody's gate 13.
Ready to break out of there as he fires up his bike. He's off.
You can see there in that ride, Craig. He broke him out. He's spinning a lot that first breaker. Of course, with how these bikes had, he never stopped spinning. He's really throwing a big fantail of dirt up the whole way. So it's not going to be a very fast time.
All right, now what causes some riders to spin that much and others don't? Because the soil consistency doesn't change from run to run.
Right, it's in the lengths that they're using in the chain, the amount of air pressure in the tires, and how loose or how tight they have them chains. The looser that chain is, the deeper it will dig and the more traction they'll get. If it's too tight on the wheel, then they'll spin.
Okay, and is it an experience factor then that determines you do want to go a little bit slower, some guys?
Well, it's not that they want to go slower, it's that they try to go faster every ride. They will make a change, and sometimes it's not the proper change.
You know, one of the things that I would be extremely concerned with would be whether or not injury would be a factor. And one of the questions that I asked a lot of these riders was, did they have a fear of becoming injured?
You have injury, no matter what you do. You can walk down the street and have injury, so, you know, it's no difference what you do. It's a chance you take in just living of injuries.
I try not to think about it. It's not something that enters into my mind, but, you know, everybody seems to get hurt sooner or later, so when my time comes, I guess it's time.
Every time you get ready to leave, you always feel that you may be getting hurt. I don't think you ever leave your mind.
The thing I'm worried about is blowing my bike up. But as far as personal injury, that doesn't enter your mind. If it did, you wouldn't be a competitive racer.
The first Kawasaki of the day we're going to see run number 36 from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Larry Light, as he fires up his Kawasaki.
Right, Larry's been out here running for quite a few years. It's a very competitive bike. Larry had a good time. He's currently in 9th place. I'm sure Larry's going to improve upon that this time. Talk about traveling mouse Hillclimb. This guy comes, you know, state of Iowa. Larry got out there pretty straight. He started to go a little crooked across the breaker. Lost a lot of time there. You can see the determination of these guys. They get a little out of shape. They don't stop and let off of it. They keep going for that top.
Right, and Larry Light was really all over the course that time. He started out a little bit slow, caught in some of that loose dirt. We'll have a chance. Boy, our cameraman up top, Don Raymer, really stayed with that shot. I thought he was going to have a bike right in his lap. Let's take a look at that on replay and see where he had some problems, Phil.
Now, you can see there at the first breaker, he got a little bit sideways with his rear end. After that, he never really got it straight. It kept going one way. He overcorrected. It went a little further the other way. So he was in trouble from the first breaker on. It just all that spinning and not enough traction. But he just hung in there and kept going to get over the top of that hill.
And he just fell just a little bit short. He was right on the crest of it when he lost his bike.
But he still made it through the clocks. That's the important thing. The clocks are down about 40 feet from the top of the hill. It's a safety factor, so they have room to shut off a little.
Okay, let's talk about the timing here because it is extremely accurate. I don't know whether or not our people can see it, but shortly after these bikes pull out of the starting gate where the white posts are, there are electric eyes.
Right, they break out electric eye with the front wheel, and that starts their time. And of course, there's another set of electric eyes at the top. And when they hit them, it stops the time and it gives you the exact time. As you seen earlier, though, had an unusual event where Steve Neef was going that fast and that high that he went over top of them, and they didn't get a time on him. That's a very unusual happening. Most of them, they'll catch either the front or the rear wheel with those, and they'll get an accurate time.
Right. I was up in the judges' stand during the preliminary rounds, and it is extremely accurate. It measures out to 3 digits, and can probably, they record that in such a way that if it has to go, to tenths or 100ths to determine a winner, it can be done.
Right. And a lot of places you'll run that the winner is determined by hundredths or thousandths of a second. They get that close to each other.
Okay, trying to get his Triumph in order now is Robert Crowder of Milford, Michigan. And a couple of the riders here in the 500cc class have struggled with their equipment.
Right, it's getting warmer, it's a little more humid, so it's going to make them a little more contrary. They're, like I said, they're very temperamental to weather changes. Of course, they'll use a little lighter fluid or something to throw that little bit of extra spark in there to get it ignited. Once they get it ignited, then it'll stay running.
You know, one of the things I talked to the riders about before the races began was it was such a wide range of ages. I wondered why so many of them choose to even do this. And that was a question I posed to them. Why do you do this?
Prestige. There's only about 30 to 40 of us that I know of in the world. and we're running motorcycles like basically they run on the drag strip and everything. We run chains on them, and we run them up a hill.
Ooh, I started hill climbing, like my dad had been running for over 20 years, and I always wanted to go racing. I could have got into motocross or something like that, but with Dad racing away on the weekends, I would have had to try and get rides with friends, dads, and all that. So it was hard. So I was more or less just waiting until I was old enough to start hill climbing, and I came out racing with Dad.
The one-man thing, you can take your bike by yourself, you can go, you can run the hill by yourself, do your own work, and then you've accomplished whatever you do by yourself.
It's exciting. I'm nervous. I'm great after the hill climb's over with, but I'm nervous right now.
Number 37, Sam Newman of York, Pennsylvania, bounding up on his Harley-Davidson as Bob Crowder pulled his Triumph out of the starting blocks. And we'll see if the Harley can do the trick now.
Right, Sam's new. He's only been out here this year. He's done some drag hill climbing before, so Sam looks pretty good so far.
Why is that bike sitting so high on the start?
Well, it's because of the long swing arm and big shots. It's basically almost like a trail bike, but because of the horsepower and the sudden force on it, it makes, they have to set them up some.
Okay, Sam Newman from York, Pennsylvania on that run up and through the finish line, and we'll have a chance to look at his run in just a minute. And I want you to pay particular attention to that start as he goes up into that first breaker. Bill?
Right, it's a real high setting bike, and just seeing the minute the power's turned on, the thing squats down, and that's because of that long swing arm. It's got to have room to travel. So, if you're going to set down real low and have a swing arm and it hits the bottom right away, well, then the swing arm isn't doing you any good. And of course, that's got the motocross type front end on it, which is a pretty sturdy front end, and that's what makes the whole bike set so high.
Okay, as we're rounding down to the finish here of the 500cc class, the B class at the 1985 Nationals, one of the questions that would come to mind is, yes, they're in this for the thrill, for the excitement, for the hobby of it, but there's got to be some money involved because you got to have something to shoot for to help pay for the equipment. What's the prize money here today?
Right, today they're guaranteed a $6,000 purse, which is the national purse. Now, on a normal hill climb, they're only guaranteed $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. But they also comes into play as 25% of the gate. So if we have a good crowd, they get 25% of the gate if it comes out to more than the guaranteed purse. So some of the purses have been going in the neighborhood of $6,000, $7,000. So they're getting some nice return on their investment today.
Okay, we're looking at what is perhaps the last rider in the 500cc class, Robert Hislop of Holton, New York, obviously related to John Hislop of Oil City, Pennsylvania.
Right, they're both sponsored by Quaker State Oil, and they're racing the father's son.
Pretty good start.
Got his Honda out fairly straight, but that looks like the chain come off or it shut off. It's a shame he had another good start. He did not have a bad first ride.
Must be a tremendous amount of stress on that chain when they're coming out through there.
Yeah, it's when they drop that, you're turning 10, 12,000 RPMs, and they're dropping all that horsepower all at once. It just amazes you how them chains hold up. And if it's off of center a little bit or something, they'll pop it right off there.
Okay, I see one of the things that you're jotting down, like next to Robert Hislop there, is he didn't make the course, but you wrote in the number 140 feet on his second run. Why?
Well, because a lot of times positions are determined upon footage. Not everybody makes the hill.
Well, it looks at this point now, however, there's no question as to who's going to capture first place in the 500cc class. It looks like it will be James D. Clark of Laurelville, Ohio, and his BSA, and he doesn't even have to make that second run.
No, he's did it all in one run. He's standing right here in front of us, and he's really quite tickled.
Okay, so a 6.76 second run for James D. Clark will give him the 1985 championship here.
Jimmy Clark was your winner. With machine number 1, the inside was 676.
Have you heard what just hit town?
That's Jake's motorcycle. Well, where's Jake?
Super ride. You guys seen Jake?
Nope.
You?
Uh-huh. Super Ride. Super Ride. Your chance to test ride the new Harley-Davidson Super Bikes.
Jake's gonna ride a Harley. Super Ride.
Harley-Davidson Super Ride.
Okay, we're back and we're ready to go with the 750cc class, the Class A's, here at the 1985 National Motorcycle Hill Climbs in Jefferson, Pennsylvania. I'm Craig Smith, along with Bill Eiler, and we're going to take a look at this class. You're really going to see them fly now because you got the bigger machines, more horsepower, and a chance to really attack some speeds. And we will tell you that in the Class B class, third place went to Greg Williams of Markham, Ontario in 7.04. Second place to Stephen Crowder of Milford, Michigan in 6.84. And first place was captured by James D. Clark of Laurelville, Ohio. He had only one run for 6.76 seconds. And the number one rider was senior Earl Bowlby of Logan, Ohio in his BSA, and he flies. And what a gentleman he was, because we had a chance to talk to him before his run. And this man is like your grandfather. Let's talk to Earl Bowlby, and then we'll come back and take a look at his run.
What changes have you seen? What have been the most drastic changes you've seen in your 27 years of hill climbing?
Oh, the changes from when I started to now, a good example of that is how fast we're going. We're going almost twice as fast as we were 20 years ago.
So a course here today where the A class may go up in 6 seconds or around 6 seconds, 25 years ago was a 12-second run, 15-second run?
Yeah, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have been a 10, 12-second run.
So the equipment is much improved?
The equipment is so much improved. And anything on these things, anything you want to do to them, you can do. Nitrous oxide, nitromethane, alcohol, whatever you want to goes.
Okay, here we are back with the replay of Earl Bowlby. Watch how fast and how straight he comes out of that pit. Look at that. He is going.
Now keep in mind,
just hits that breaker. His back wheel's on the ground. The only little bit of flaw you can find in this ride is watch when he goes across that second breaker, he lets off a little early and noses into the hill. That's
well, I tell you, 6.52 seconds to go 300-plus feet at a 75-degree angle. That's a heck of a ride, Bill.
Yes, he was flying. There's no doubt about it. That's why he wears that #1 plate. He is the Grand National Champion.
And you had a chance to hear Earl Bowlby, and as I said, what a gentleman he really seemed to be in the interview that we had with him. And it looks like he's the odds-on favorite to win today, doesn't it, Bill?
Yeah, he's, don't matter what hill climb you go to, when you're competing against Earl Bowlby, you know that's one man that's going to be up in the top 5 positions, and you have to beat him.
Randy Gabriel from Columbus, Ohio, riding a Harley-Davidson. He's about ready to come out of the start. And he knows what he's got to shoot for, 6.52. He was in third place at the end of round 1 with a 6.98, so he certainly has a shot, Bill.
Right, he's a very good rider, and Randy's bike is very fast. He can come out here, and he might be able to beat that time. I would never count him out. There's quite a few on here. They have very fast machines, and one good ride, you could be faster than the next guy. That's it. Randy's really out of the second. Look at him go. Well, he got a little bouncing, a little out of shape, but he's not going to be as fast as his first one.
7.48.
Yeah, Randy come out of the pit real straight, you know, and he hit that first breaker. He was straight, but when he come back on in, then he got over to the right side of the hill and he started bouncing, and then he wheelied, and by then the time was shot. It was too late.
It looked to me, Bill, as though, and maybe this is just not being around this sport that much, but the soil seems to really loosen up as the day goes on.
Well, you get rid of the loose stuff because those chains take so much out of it. You get rid of the loose stuff on top, so you get to a harder surface. So then they're going to start getting more bite. And what that does, it creates, just like Aaron Randy's case, you get too much traction, then you wheelie. You got to keep that front end down also. And when he crossed that breaker and got back on, he hit a spot where he got some good bite, and it just brings the front end up.
Number 2, Wade G. Williams of Markham, Ontario, part of that Williams racing team. He's on an STP special. Bill, what can we expect out of Wade?
Wade's a young rider, and he's out of a professional racing family, and they're all very good. And Wade he could win first. He can come in second. He's got a strong machine, and he's a very capable young rider. get his 2 to replace those. Harry Wade's come out straight, but he's not getting a whole lot of traction, but he's fast in the middle. Look how he goes through that top.
Boy, that was very noticeable, wasn't it? The way he seemed to be a little shaky at the start, but boy, when he hit the middle part of that course, he was on the fly. 7.68.
Yeah, it looked like, I don't know, he was being a little cautious getting to that first breaker. Once he hit that first breaker, he flew. I mean, it just...
he opened up the jets at that point.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's take a look at that on replay. He comes out fairly slow. Go ahead, take it, Bill.
Yeah, he comes out a little slower than Wade Williams usually comes out of there, but like he just wanted to make sure he got through that first breaker. But once he was through that, I mean, it was just turning all that power of that Honda on, and away he went. If he'd have started out to come out fast like he usually does, I'm afraid Earl Bowlby's time might have been knocked off.
Okay, number 10 in the starting area, Stephen Naif of Glen Rock, Pennsylvania, on top of a BSA, firing up his engine, ready to attack that 300-foot-plus hill.
Yeah, Steve's been out here for about 4 years, and last week he won last hill climb in Adelphia, Ohio. He won his first hill climb, and he was really excited. He's really got that BSA flying, and Rod keeps both them bikes flying. And he had a real fast time the first time, and he's the one that jumped the lights. He was going that fast, and he had to take a second ride and still turned to 681. So he's turned some pretty consistent fast times, and he's another threat out here.
That's got to be a thrill for a young rider or any rider to win that first hill climb at this level.
Yeah, I talked to Steve Saturday night down here, and you know, you could still see the elation in him when he talked about it. And he felt he didn't deserve to win. He hasn't been out here long enough. But like I told him, I said, you're a capable rider, and you got a fast machine, and anytime. And I'm very glad to see him win. He comes out very hard. He hits that breaker very well, but he's right back on there. He hesitated.
He goes through the clump sideways.
Yeah, he really struggled in the middle portion of the course. As smooth as Wade G. Williams was hitting that middle part of the course, Steve really struggled at that point, and I think we'll have a chance to see that when we take a look at the replay. He moved off to the left and just caught the lip of the course off on the left.
Yeah, you watch when Steve hits the first breaker here, you'll see he left off a little too soon, and it didn't come back on right away. And then that threw him off, and he started bouncing and hopping. Well, then, like I say, with the power these have, once you're in trouble, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah, he just barely, I guess we got a time for him. Yeah, he did break the tape there and came across the line.
Tape, yeah, they put that tape across because that helps the driver see where the light is. That's just another safety feature. It's just, Pease went.
Well, on to number 8 out of York, Pennsylvania, riding that Harley-Davidson, working at Harley-Davidson, Beast Wentz. And we talked to Beast before the race to ride his home course here.
All right, he's really hanging a ride out here. Nobody jumped that breaker today.
Love it, and the crowd loves it because Beast Wentz is one of the local favorites. He's been riding for 27 plus years. And at 6.61, that's a nice run for him, Bill.
6.61 for that last ride.
Right,
let's take a look at him from the start here.
That was a real fast ride. Pease come out real quick. Look how he jumped through that breaker. Nobody else has done that today. He got a little rough there in the middle stretch, but he kept it going, and he went right through the top. That was a real good ride, and it was a fast ride. It's not quite fast enough, but much faster. He was the first round leader, and he improved that by 1/10 of a second.
Well, number 41, Danny Holcomb from Rochester Hills, Michigan, riding a Triumph, is now at the starting line, firing up his engine with his crew around there. And he knows at this point the best time to beat is the 6.52 put in by number 1, Earl Bowlby of Logan, Ohio. So the riders know exactly what they're shooting for. It's just a simple battle between them and the hill.
Yeah, this is their second round. The first round, they try to establish a good time. The second round, they let it all hang out. They know what they got to beat.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose at this point.
Right.
Nice ride there from Danny.
7.34.
Certainly not in the top times, but then we're traveling in fast company right here.
Right. Danny's second ride, as you'll see when we come back to slow-mo, he came out pretty good, but that middle section got him. If you don't hit it in the right area, you know, you're going to be over on the right side. It's a little rough over there. As you can see, he's bouncing around a little bit. But he gets through that and he keeps going. But you lose a lot of time in there. That middle section's where you're really got to make that time when you clear that first breaker.
Okay, so the strategy, Bill, is basically to keep that thing straight on course. That's the key.
Right. It's just like you say, the shortest way is a straight line, and that's theory applies here. It's get that breaker as quick as you can and keep it straight as you can the rest of the way.
When I ask a lot of the riders, what does it feel like to beat the hill? Some of them actually alluded to the fact is when you come off the start of this thing, it's almost like being in a rocket. It's a hard feeling to describe.
Right, yeah, I can appreciate that because, like I said, you're thumping, 12,000 RPMs and 200 horsepower all at once, and it's just shooting you out of there like a rocket. It's got to be quite a feeling. You really got to have your thoughts with you. If that motorcycle leads ahead of you, well, you're going to be done before you get to the first breaker because you're going to be out of time. You have to have the timing to go with it.
Next rider in riding a Yamaha will be number 5, Doyle Disbennett from Laurelville, Ohio. His time first round, Bill?
He had a 697, was currently standing in 4th place. This Yamaha is long and it is very fast. And this thing don't sound fast, but it really motors. Doyle is a very, very good rider. Doyle has won quite a few hill climbs here and throughout the circuit.
How about the length of that bike? What does that mean for the course?
Well, the big thing is you got to keep that front wheel down where it's in play. They stretch it way back out there, so there's less weight on that back wheel, so it turns freer, which makes that horsepower give them all the more speed. And that's the thing. And if that tire's on the ground, you watch how much Doyle Disbennett bounces here. We'll see that he does not bounce a lot. That's where he makes his time. He keeps that wheel on the ground. What they call in motorcycling doesn't waste a stroke.
He's really
going right up
in
to the middle.
Yeah.
Very fast, very fast.
He had that little bit of a hesitation at the first breaker, and then he really opened it up. Well, Doyle Disbennett, number 5 from Laurelville, Ohio, has put in the fastest time of the day. His 6.49 has edged out at this point Earl Bowlby's 6.52. Bill, let's take a look at his run.
Yeah, as you can see, Doyle shot out of there real quick. He hit that breaker perfect. That rear wheel never left the ground. He just shot right up through that middle, and that's where he made his time.
That was an incredible run because it didn't look like the first third to the first breaker he was going that fast, and all of a sudden he just glided up through there. It had a nice look to it, not a fast look.
Right, well, that Yamaha is so long, it does not look as fast as a lot of the other bikes. And like Gary, he shut off for that breaker, and he was back on it, and just made it look like he wasn't moving fast, but he was moving.
Okay, now we're about halfway through the 750cc class. What are the chances we might see a time faster than 6.49?
Well, you have about 8-10 riders left here that can, beat that time. Like I said, these machines are very fast. They're good riders, and the guy that puts it on the ground and straight up through can beat any other rider at any given time.
What's the fastest time on this course that you're aware of?
Well, the record on this hill is actually, believe it or not, around 5.9, and that's held by Beast Lent.
Same length of course?
Same length of course, yeah.
Did not alter the finish line anyway.
Well,
it was under 6.
Yeah, the course has been changed. At that time, we did not have that second breaker in there, so that has backed the times up a little.
Okay, we're taking a look at Conley Newsom, number 6 out of Grove City, Ohio, on his triumph. He is the president of the National Association and had a nice ride there. 7.51 for Conley Newsom. You saw his son riding in the 500cc class, and just another example of many of the family-related rides and competitors that you see here. Go ahead, let's take a look at his ride.
As you've seen, Conley has a very strong triumph. It really comes out of the pits, and of course he's very straight to that first breaker, but he gets over on the right side of that hill as he goes through the breaker, and as you can see, it's kicking him all over the place, and that's where all the time is lost. You got to keep that wheel on the ground and keep moving straight. Other than that, Conley had a very good ride.
Okay, Richard C. Reed, number 9 from Wills, Pennsylvania. He told me before the race he's from a small town, but he wants to put it on the map through hill climbing, and he seemed to be really enthusiastic about that. Let's see how his Yamaha rides today, Bill.
Right, he's a promising young rider, and he's got one of those fast Yamahas, and like I said, there's so many here that can still put one through here. And I'm sure Richard's going to be giving it all he got this second ride.
What makes a rider choose a particular brand of bike?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's something that you grow up with or that you learn to like or whatever your favorite thing is. And a lot of times if you have a sponsor, that helps you decide what you're going to ride.
Absolutely. Okay, Richard C. Reed on his way up the hill, approaching the finish line. Rough finish, but up and over the finish line. And, of course, a couple bumps and knocked off course there will alter his time considerably. Bill, let's wait for it.
7.97 for Richard Reed.
Okay, Bill, let's take a look at Richard C. Reed's run.
Right, Richard gets out of the pits not real straight. It's seen as the rear kicked a little bit to the left. Well, then once he got across that breaker, he too got in the rough stuff and it started kicking all over the place. And, of course, that second breaker, he attacked it on the left, and it's very sharp over there, and that just threw him. He hung her in there right to the line and got the time. That's the important thing. These guys really have a determination to get to the top.
Boy, he took a pretty hard shot on the inside of the left knee there as well.
Right, it hurts when you stop that suddenly.
He seems like he has a great positive attitude, and I'm sure a little frustrated over this run. As they take his bike off the course, we'll be awaiting that green flag to clear things out in anticipation of number 12, who's moving his bike in. Louis Gerenser?
Yeah, Louis Gerenser. He's from Elkhart, Indiana. He's the Harley dealer out there. This is an identical bike to the one that he's went ride, and it's very fast also, and I'll guarantee you Louis will go for broke on this ride.
Okay, we talked to Louis also and asked him how he feels when he completes the course in a very satisfying run.
Well, you get a feeling like you just don't get too many times in your life, and different accomplishments gives you good feelings, and this is one of them.
As you can see, Louis come out there, he gave it all he's got. The bike almost left without him. You'll catch that in slow-mo.
He had a nice ride. Must take an incredible amount of strength to hold that bike down. 6.41. Now he has the top time as he's edged out the 6.49 of Doyle Disbennett. So we now have lowered the time one more time, Bill. 6.41. I didn't think that looked that fast.
Yeah, this is amazing. Watch this. That bike come out of that pit so fast.
Let's take a look at that one more time.
Yeah, there he comes out. Look at his left leg. He's had trouble finding the foot peg. He come out that quick, but he jumped right through that breaker and just right through the other side. Same thing Bees did. It's like I said, it's a very fast bike. They're identical bikes, and these guys let it all hang out, and they're all capable.
I thought the problem would be there with that little bit of a wobble at the beginning would really take some time away from him. Obviously, he cranked it the last 2/3 of the hill.
Right. Once he got his foot back on there, it was wide open from there. It's just he lets it all hang out.
Okay, so we now have a new leader in terms of time. Louis Gerenser of Elkhart, Indiana, on his Harley. He takes over the lead from Doyle Disbennett of Laurelville, Ohio, who drops to second. And, of course, Doyle Disbennett edged out Earl Bowlby, who had the leading time going into this final round. Number 7, David Colras, wearing what is thought to be in most sports a very lucky number, as he's going to attack this 300-foot hill here in Jefferson, Pennsylvania. I'm Craig Smith along with Bill Eiler as we bring you this 1985 National Motorcycle Hill Climb Championship. Now we have a new time to beat, right? 6.41. Maybe we'll get it under 6 today.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me the way these guys are going right now. I mean, the hill's getting faster and faster. Like I said, that loose soil's off the top now. They'll fly. They're getting traction, and they're really going for it. They have nothing more to lose. It's their last chance to beat that clock.
David out of the gate fast.
Head up. There comes Dave back over. He just, like I said, they're getting an extra traction now, and he got a little too much there.
Okay, that was about the worst spill of the day that we saw. He appears to be okay, but he just got that front tire way too far up in the air coming out of that coming up towards that second breaker. So we'll take a look at that on replay and be able to analyze where he had his problems. Go ahead, take it, Bill.
All right, yeah. See, like most of them, he gets out straight. He hits that first breaker, but when he gets right on the other side, see how his front end hit? He didn't have the power on quick enough. And then when he did get it back on, he got all kind of bite and just brings that front end right up in the air. If you don't let off to get it back down, it's not coming down. It's coming back over.
Right, it was up in the air one time, he brought it down, and then that second time just had too much going.
That's right. That traction can be very bad for your health.
It sure can be. That must be really an almost helpless feeling when that thing starts coming back towards you, when you're up on a hill of that angle or that magnitude.
Well,
so,
you could see by the way Dave got off there that, you know, they've done this before, and he just let the bike go and landed on his feet and let the bike get out of the road, and no one gets injured that way.
Okay, David Colross of Dearborn, Michigan, a real tough run for him as he does not complete his second run here at the 1985 championships. So quickly into the starting area is number 35, Charles D. Casey of Hillsboro, Illinois. He'll be aboard another Yamaha.
Yeah, this Yamaha used to belong to Jimmy Thompson, who at one time was the national champion on it. This is also a very capable machine, and Charlie's another capable rider.
Well, in terms of times today, you know, the Yamahas looked like they had the edge. We had Earl Bowlby on a BSA taking the fastest time early, and then Doyle Disbennett was riding a Yamaha as he cruised up over the hill in very smooth fashion. And, of course, Louis Garenzer of Elkhart, Indiana, now holding the best time of 6.41 aboard a Harley-Davidson. And I guess at this point that might be a little bit appropriate because Harley-Davidson is within about 15 or 20 miles of us here back in the city of York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm sure the boys at Harley are quite pleased with that.
Yeah, this has to add prestige to the bike, right? The more championships a particular producer of a bike can claim, certainly that's going to add to his reputation.
Right, and you'll find a lot of your bikers that come here, they come here and they don't root for a certain rider, they root for their brand. You know, they don't care who's riding as long as their brand wins.
Okay, John G. Williams. It'll be coming up after Charlie Casey. So we'll see how number 35, Charlie Casey, does on the Yamaha, and then we'll have a chance to look at a national and world champion in John G. Williams of Markham, Ontario.
He's not only has the Yamaha today.
Charlie got out of there real straight. There he got a little right over that breaker, but there he goes.
Nice ride. Nice ride.
7:10.
Okay, 7.10 for Charles D. Casey. Certainly does not put him up among the leaders, but he had a nice smooth ride.
Yeah, the big thing for Charlie there is he went a second and a half faster than he did the first ride. And that's important. And you watch Charlie now, he gets over in that right side of that middle section again, and he's going to be bouncing and losing time. See, it throws him, there he goes across that breaker, and he bottoms over there, and now he's just bouncing here and there, and that's where their time gets to on this hill. If they don't smooth through that middle, they're just not going to be fast enough to win. Other than that, Charlie had a very good ride.
John G. Williams, number 11 from Markham, Ontario, Canada, riding an STP special. He is a national and a world champion, a fine rider, and a fine gentleman. Bill, what are his chances of taking over the lead here?
John's a very capable rider. He's got about 25 years experience, and he has so many titles to his name. He's been world champion. He's been national champion. He's been Canadian champion.
Very personal.
Very capable rider with a very fast Honda.
6.41 is the time he's shooting for. He's got to go for it. 6.72. That doesn't quite get him into first place. As a matter of fact, it's going to plunk him about fourth.
Yeah, that was not a bad ride for John. But
okay, let's take a look at it here on replay. Go ahead, Bill.
He comes out very straight. A little across the breaker there, it starts kicking around a little. You see him trying to correct it with his steering, but it's still pretty fast, and he just keeps it right in there. Like I said, with all that bouncing around, he still turned to 6.72. If he'd have kept that thing straight, I'm sure that'd been fast enough for first place.
Number 51, Jonathan Schreiner from Elkhart, Indiana, aboard a Harley, is ready to make his second and final ride of the day in the 750cc class. Bill, the time again to shoot for at this point is 6.41 seconds. Louis has that. Let's take a look now as Jonathan's off and running. Oh, bad spill. Bad spill. The bike twisted on him about just as he headed towards that second breaker, about midway up between the first and second breaker.
Yeah, he hit the other side of that breaker. It just hit too hard, and it just went right out from under him. It might have threw him right off his foot pegs.
All right, let's go right to the instant replay and see what the problem was there.
As you see, he come out pretty good. He's on it. He gets that breaker. He's straight, and when he hit the other side, see how it bottom, it might have just threw him right off there. I don't think he was quite ready for that one. But they really hit hard.
Okay, but he appears to be okay, and so we'll look forward to our next rider. Okay, we are with and ready to go with number 50, Thomas Reiser of Orient, Ohio, aboard a Harley-Davidson. His time in the first round was 7.91, so it would not appear as though he'd have a great shot at this point to be up among the leaders, but if all conditions are right and everything hits just right, he certainly could be.
Right.
So
Tom's been around this sport for a long time. He's got quite a few titles to his name, and you can never count Tom Reiser out. Tom is a very capable rider with a very capable bike. He's charging out of that pitch, but he's let off a little to keep it straight, but now he's got it going. He's got a fairly decent ride.
He was more than up and over the top. You see him up on top of the hill there. His bike took a spill, but he looks fine, bounced right back up. I thought he had nice speed through the middle of that ride.
He did, but he got a little slow in the middle, and not in the middle, but over the breaker, and he got good speed in the middle and picked that time back up.
Okay, let's take a look at it from the very beginning now as he hits that first breaker. Go ahead, Bill.
Right, and there's where he really got good traction and really started moving. As you see him when he come up to the first breaker, he was a little left and right, but once he hit that middle section, he really moved. He picked up a lot of time. He still turned 9/10 of a second faster than his first ride.
Number 55, David Deaver from Rock Island, Illinois, aboard a BSA. He's about ready to come out of the starting area and attack this 300-foot plus hill at a 75-degree angle. We've seen some tough spills today. We've also seen some outstanding times. Let's see what David Deaver of Rock Island, Illinois can do to challenge that leading time of 6.41 seconds.
David got out there real good. He's going fairly good through the middle. Fairly fast ride.
Nice ride. Very smooth ride. I'll be real anxious to get what his time was. And while you listen for that. 6.42. So that makes him 1/100th off the time of Louis Garenser. So David Deaver had an outstanding effort, but his 6.42 just a tad slower than the 6.41. Let's take a look at the ride.
There he come out very straight, very fast, and watch how he hits that breaker right across it, and he's right back on it, and he's really going right through that middle. You see how he makes his time, and of course that second breaker, he just goes right out over it. It don't even come into play when you're going that fast. Very good ride by David Deaver.
And number 18, ride referee.
Douglas Clont, number 18, had problems earlier. Now going to be the final rider of today's national championships from Lansing, Michigan. He's aboard a Triumph. Bill?
Yep, that's a final rider, and just a very capable rider. That Triumph going straight out. He didn't get across the breaker so good, and it looks like he threw a chain. Drive chain probably came off of it, and that's where he's done. 180 feet. Tough break for Doug.
Okay, so the last rider experiences problems he certainly can't overcome as a human in riding. He broke a chain, and so we'll take a look at some of the results here as we wrap it out at these 1985 Motorcycle Hill Climbing Championships. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank the White Rose Motorcycle Club and to all of those who have helped put this broadcast together. So as we leave you, we'll take a look at the top finishers in the 750cc class.
Okay, the first place will go to Louis Garenser on a Harley-Davidson with a time of 6:41. Second place will be David Deaver on a PSA of 6.42. Doyle Disbent on the Yamaha was third at 6.49. Earl Bowlby on the BSA was fourth at 6.52. And fifth is Bees Wynn of York on a Harley-Davidson, 6.61. John Williams on a Honda with 6.72. Steve Neff had 6.81 on the BSA, and Randy Gabriel at Harley-Davidson had a 6.90.
Bees Wynn out of
That's it from Jefferson, Pennsylvania for this, the 1985 National Motorcycle Hill Climb Championships.
Have you heard what just hit town?
That's Jake's motorcycle. Well, where's Jake?
Super Ride. You guys seen Jake?
Nope.
You?
Uh-huh.
Super Ride.
Super Ride. Super Ride. Your chance to test ride the new Harley-Davidson Superbike.
Jake's gonna ride a Harley. Super Ride.
Harley-Davidson Super Ride.